Welcome to another episode of Moments That Define Us. I am your host, Iryna Barnett. Today on the podcast, I have another wonderful woman who is from the city of Detroit that I am super excited to interview. Her name is Amy Peterson. She is the CEO and co-founder of the social enterprise called Rebel Nell. Amy, welcome to Moments That Define Us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, you know, I was, as I was preparing for this episode, I was thinking, oh my gosh, how many amazing women I had on the podcast. Not only that they're just badass women, but women that see the problem, the injustice, that something is not right in their community, and they put all the resources together and they make it right. So, and that's exactly what you did. So, your social enterprise, Rebel Nell, can you describe what it is and what is the mission of your social enterprise?
My company is called Rebel Nell, and the reason I started it is to provide employment opportunities for women who are transitioning out of shelters. I really wanted to be a sustainable business. I wanted to be a profitable business, and so we chose to make a product that where we repurpose meaningful materials like fallen graffiti, and we turn that into cool, unique pieces of jewelry and art and collectible items and gifts and corporate gifts and all sorts of cool things.
I just wanted to tell you that this week, I got the jewelry from Rebel Now, and I was
Yay!
browsing through the different collections you have. And the jewelry I have on, it's called Rosie necklace. And I'm
Yes.
so,
Oh, I'm wearing one too.
are you? Okay, I have to tell you why I'm wearing and then see if maybe our stories are similar. So my daughter's middle name is Rose, but oftentimes I call her Rosie. And so when I was looking, for on your website, I was like, oh my gosh, Rosie. So I got it. I got it right away. And so my Rosie is always next to me. What about you? Do you just like the jewelry, or does it have kind of special meaning to you as well?
I think everything we do has its own special it has its own special place in my heart, but that in particular, the Rosie we just came out with, I love this one in particular because we named it after Rosie the Riveter. We brought this out as the 80th celebration of the end of World War II to kind of highlight the impact of women for the war effort. We launched it at an International Women's Day event where we actually had one of the original Rosies on stage with us and got to ask her questions about that time. And oh yeah, and the really other cool thing is that this was made from Packard plant material, which is where they made a lot of bombers and engines for the war effort. So that's lots of different reasons why I love the Rosie.
Wow, that is pretty cool. And for you to have, like you said, one of the original Rosies on the stage on International Women's Day is just make it so much more meaningful. Um, so before you co-found your organization, you were a woman in sport. You were a lawyer for the Detroit Tigers, the baseball team. So I am curious, how was that experience for you? And also, what was one of many of defining moments that made you leave that space and start your organization?
Yeah, I think for me it was really fulfilling a dream. I was all I ever wanted to do was to work in baseball, to work in professional sports. Um, I really wanted to be the general manager of a Major League Baseball team, and I got that opportunity with the Tigers, and I'm forever grateful for that opportunity. And I spent 11 seasons with them and did some really cool things. I loved my career path. I loved the people that I worked with. But there were still a lot of challenges just within the industry itself, particularly around women in that side of baseball on the development, player acquisition side. And I was honestly, I mean, just being honest, like I was frustrated that there was not more opportunities for women, um, and that they weren't overly open to it. So I ultimately, at the time, I was also living right next door to a well-known shelter in the Detroit area, and I got to know the incredible women, hear their stories, and I think as a result of what I was striving to do at work, this became an outlet for me, is to be able to empower other women. And so Rebel Nell was born from that. So that defining moment, I think it was more than like one moment. It was just a general sense of my experience while I was there
Mm,
and just working in the industry itself. Like there were so many incredible women that I wish had gotten more opportunities.
yeah. It's crazy to me that we still, no matter how much we fight sometimes, and I know that that's not true fully, but I feel like no matter how much we fight, we like still standing in like the same place, just moving a little bit, then going back. How so many women speak on that, how there are not enough opportunity for women in the quote unquote man run industry, right? Specifically, like you
Yeah.
said, in sport, which is just, like I said, it's frustrating and sad all at the same time. Um, so you were living next to the shelter, and you said I was frustrated that there was not enough opportunities at the place where you were working, and then you were living next to the shelter. So I think I read in one of your interviews that because you were living next to the shelter, you started developing the relationship with the women. Can you talk about like how did you start developing those relationships?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, honestly, it was I didn't know a soul in Detroit when I moved there. These women became my friends. They were who I would talk to when I would come home from the game. I really enjoyed their company. Um, and uh, that I think was really just a major part of it. We were neighbors more than anything else. And I think it's
Mm,
also important to point out that like another character in the story of Rebel Nell is the city of Detroit itself. And when I started the company, the city was in the midst of one of the biggest bankruptcies the country had ever seen. And so a lot of the resources were visibly just disappearing. It was a really tough and challenging time. And that played a role in it as well. And so I just was like, well, what can be my part? What can
mm,
I do to help? You feel there were a lot of grassroots movements at the time in the city, and um, yeah, Rebel Nell was mine.
yeah. I think a lot of the times we think as we look at so many different issues that's happening, right? And it seems so big. And oftentimes we're like, oh, I don't know, what can I do as one person, right? But to me,
Yeah.
like I love the story of your company because you you got community together. You are building a sisterhood, which I love that word so much. Like you're building the community with women and for women, and you use your knowledge and your expertise and your experience from what you've done before in the past, right? And you put it all towards Rebel now. I wanted to talk a little bit about Detroit, but you mentioned you're not from Detroit originally. Where are you originally from? Like,
I'm
where do you?
yeah, I'm from south of Buffalo, a town called Jamestown, New York.
Okay.
A very similar feeling to Detroit, once very industrial city. Then all the industry moved overseas, so it left the city pretty decimated. Um, and that's what I grew up with. So coming to Detroit didn't it was not like a shock for me. And
Mm,
I love my hometown. I'm very grateful to come from Jamestown. I'm grateful for all the people there. But it was, it's also a kind of a Midwest Rust Belt feeling town as well.
yeah. Any specific reason you chose Detroit, or just that was more familiar to
Detroit?
where?
No, there was no familiarity, none whatsoever. I applied to work for almost every team in baseball, and Detroit was
Gotcha.
the only one that gave me a chance. So I was willing to go anywhere. Just by luck, I
Yeah.
ended up here.
Okay. Um, Interesting. I've never been to Detroit. And so, again, preparing for this, I was reading about Detroit. And so I read that once Detroit was like, I think it was described in an article like a hotspot for graffiti arts, and kind of artists from all over the world came to Detroit because they saw the empty building like a canvas, for them to
Hmm.
paint. So because you mentioned that you repurposing graffiti, specifically why graffiti? And also, do you use any other material besides the graffiti in your jewelry?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think when I originally started the company, it was using material that we could, like, I could pay a tribute to the city that gave me a chance at my dream. And yes, graffiti is an abundant local resource here in the
Mm,
Motor City, but there's, not to be confused with murals too. There's a ton of beautiful murals and artwork that it covers our city. And when I first came up with the idea, there was a lot of graffiti. Like I would go for a run, and just because of the nature of our weather and the expansion and contraction of the concretes, like during the winter, and people would paint over and over, so these thick layers would come to be, and then they would just crumble. And so I would just pick them up off the ground. We have a lot of respect for the artist, so we don't touch it while it's on the walls. We wait till it falls,
mhm,
and then so that was what we originally launched with, was graffiti from that falls off the walls, or street art that falls off the walls. And then that has evolved into just understanding that we repurpose a lot of meaningful material that has memories. So we started working with our sports teams when they were demolishing the Joe Louis Arena. We were able to take that material. Same thing with the Palace of Auburn Hills. When the Tigers are redoing their dugout, we got that material. So finding that special and unique material to preserve memories has been part of the fun, collaborative community piece that we get to be a part of.
yeah. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool that you're doing this, that you're not only, again, making beautiful jewelries and meaningful, but you also, doing the good for the environment, and not just, oh, this is trash, but you making it into something beautiful. So
Yeah.
again, I think it's pretty cool. Okay, one last question on Detroit specifically. As I was like reading different stuff about you, I could feel in your words that were written, that were said about you, that you were super proud to be from Detroit. So I wanted to ask you, what is it specifically about Detroit that makes you to be? I know you're not originally from there, but you've lived there now. You created your business and you live there now. So what is it? What is so special about Detroit that makes you so proud?
I think the city itself is so amazing and resilient, and there's an energy here that is contagious, in the sense that people are so determined. It's like Detroit's been down but not out so many times and continues to fight back. Um, and when things hit hard, Detroit gets hit harder, and that just doesn't stop the people here. Nothing stops Detroit, and that energy is something that proud to be a part of. I'm very active in the community. I love the collaborativeness of this town. The nice thing is we are a small, big town, and
Mm,
we don't have time or energy for competition. It's very collaborative, and we all try to lift each other up. Um, and we just all want to see the city win, and that's a nice. That's what I love about Detroit. I love the people.
yeah. Um, I think it's amazing, and it's a shame that a lot of people don't realize this. When we work together, when we lift each other up, we all win. And even in the business world, right? It seems that it's just such a cutthroat, and everybody's trying to updo one another, right? But it's just, again, when you create community, and also like I feel like there's always space for all of us to do what we need to do, even if we, I don't know, do the same thing, right? Because I'm sure you're not the only jewelry in town, but everybody thrives because we all work together. So I really like to hear that. And so you and I met through my business coach and your friend Brenda Williams. And just as I started following her on social media, she's another woman. So far I know you and her from Detroit, but just seeing like you can feel that sense of community and like fighting for your city and fighting for everything in it. So that's pretty cool.
It is. There's a lot of city pride here, and I'm just a part. I'm proud to be my own small little part.
Yeah. Um, okay, I wanted to talk a little bit about you and your drive. So one of the phrases that you said, let your passion be your motivation. So I want you to talk about how your passion motivated you to do what you do today.
I think you need to be driven by passion because it's exhausting. This work is exhausting. I am so tired, but I love what I do, and that is what gets me up every day. Um, and I'm passionate about empowering women. I'm passionate about social enterprises and this idea of being sustainable and proving to the world that you can have a successful and profitable business where you put people um, at the same level as profit. And it's really challenging. There's a reason that these are not very common yet.
Yeah,
But that's what really motivates me.
I agree with you 100% that oftentimes, and I feel like it's maybe more younger generation where they think, oh, I have a passion for this, so everything should work out and it shouldn't be hard or everything. Not understanding, yes, it is because 9 to 5 job, if you think about it, it's easier. There's somebody telling you what to do and how to do.
Oh,
You show up,
yes.
you
Yes.
clock in, they're like, okay, do this report, write this, whatever, make this, and then you're done. For most of the time, right? You're done. But when you have your own business, you have to be the person tell you when to get up, when to show up, when to not show up, what to fight for. It's just having, I agree with you. It's very, you have to really love what you do because if you don't, that can take you down really, really quick.
Really
Um,
quick. I mean, it is I think being an entrepreneur, if you aren't bipolar, it makes you bipolar. If you aren't anxious, it makes you anxious. If it's it's a whole different beast. You're right. Like I have many days where I long for the corporate world, which is crazy. I wouldn't necessarily quit. I love what I do, so I don't think I could go back. But there is something to be said about the ease of and consistency, right? There's a
mm,
consistency of a paycheck. There's a consistency of, if you have benefits and all those things that you don't have when you're an entrepreneur. You're singing for your dinner all the time. Um, but that also makes you alive every single day.
yeah. Oh my gosh. The last piece makes you alive. Oh, Amy, yeah, can relate to that, especially now. What I really, really like about what you do and what I already said before, creating beautiful jewelry, giving women opportunities, women um, who are going through this society challenges, right? People who've been incarcerated and coming out of that, people, women with disability or who have housing insecurity. You're giving those women second chance. But what also you do on top of it is that you provide financial literacy, you provide business education, and just teaching them like this wellness, you focus on wellness as well. So tell me, when did that other piece, or how did that other piece come about? Because again, you're already providing the opportunities, but then financial education, let me tell you, I used to teach financial education just through the bank I used to work. We had this tiny program. Financial education is not really taught, even adults, right? I'm not talking about schools, but some of the adults, unless you work in some financial industry or somehow you teach yourself, there's not really like big push to teach financial education. But what you're providing, I think it's such a huge resource that a lot of us don't have access to. So talk to me about that piece of your social enterprise.
Yeah, I think it's just important to offer all the supportive resources to not only like I look at Rebel Nell as we're a transitional employer. Like the goal isn't that they're with us forever and ever. We're that next stepping stone as they're transitioning out of a shelter where they can work with us and kind of get supportive services for themselves so that they're ready to transition to a full-time job, where they've been unable to hold in the past. And so to be able to offer these resources that have maybe been things that have been prohibitive in the past has allowed us to have a lot more, like a higher success rate for the women that we employ.
Okay. Oh, you mentioned something. You said that you are just the transition, right, from the shelter to the um and I also read that you have like I don't know if I'm saying it, like a graduates from your program. So tell me how long can those women stay with you, and if they want to stay full time, is that the possibility, or it's only like for a certain period of time?
Yes. So it's not like a hard window and then we kick you out, but we kind of gear it towards about working with us for about 2 years, and then that's on average, and then that's when they graduate or transition to another job. But some women will stay inside Rebel Nell and they'll get promoted internally. So it is certainly a career path, and we also do count those as graduations because you'll be moving
Mhm.
to a job that's um, more salaried and a growth opportunity within the company.
Okay, okay. And for specifically for women that graduate and then they transfer to another job or doing something else, um, do you stay in touch? Does your organization stay in touch with those women? Um, I don't know, just to kind of check on them to make sure that they are doing well, or how does that transition process goes?
Yeah, we do stay pretty closely connected to a lot of the women. We try our best to keep in touch with all of them. We just have not, honestly, it's crazy to say, but ever since COVID, we've still kind of been rebuilding. We had pretty robust plans to build out a more, or we had plans to build out a more robust like database, and we just have
Mm,
not gotten around to it yet. We've been kind of in survival mode, as every year seems to throw us a new wrench. But that is certainly in our longer term plan to build that out more.
I feel like even though we are in 2025 now, I feel like there are still a lot of businesses who are still in that recovery and, like you said, survival mode, to rebuild after that.
Yeah, I mean, every year it's been something unique.
Mm,
I mean, even now, what we're facing with the tariffs is just wild. It's wild.
yeah.
So,
Have you been affected a lot by what's happening now?
oh, very much so.
Yeah.
Very, very much so. All of our silver comes from overseas. We work with social enterprises in Thailand to get a lot of our product, and uh, I mean, we just can't absorb the costs that. And even though, and then there you have the shift of like, okay, yes, we're in a 90-day window grace period, but we don't know what's coming afterwards. So every small business is gathering any bit of cash that we currently have to buy what we can right now in order to like get us through the holidays, because we don't know how that's going to impact us. Then even with the tariffs, that means our costs are going to go up, and we can't absorb much more because our margins are so tight because of our mission. And I'm not sure my customers can either. So we're really at a kind of a catch 22 um, situation. And I don't know what's going to happen, but
Yeah.
we just have
It's
to tackle the day.
yeah. It's it's interesting to hear you speak because you are directly affected by it, but it's just, I remember when the talk about tariffs, I don't know, I think it was when he was running before the election, was like, oh, it's not for the Americans, and it's like such a ignorance and absolutely no knowledge what's happening. And then you ask some people, oh yeah, they, whatever he said, whoever's gonna pay. And now, I
Yeah.
hear from so many small businesses how they're struggling, and especially small businesses who also want to do good in the world. It's just, it's
It feels like the world is against you. Um,
yes, yes. Oh my gosh. Hopefully it's somehow it's all gonna end in a better, hopefully there is a light in the end of the tunnel for all the small businesses like yours, because again, it's amazing. um but I wanted to talk to you a little bit about just being an entrepreneur, because again, so many people have ideas, have passion, but they don't know where to go about this. So tell me about some of the challenges and some of the big successes that you had so far. You started your business in 2013, right?
That's
So
correct.
yeah. So tell me some of the like challenges and also some of the successes that comes with being an entrepreneur.
There's so many challenges. We don't have long enough time for that. There's so many challenges. I mean,
Yeah.
you're constantly pivoting. You just spin in circles sometimes and trying to find the right path, and what worked one year doesn't necessarily work the next year. What worked 3 years ago doesn't work now. You've got the constant change in employees and managing people, managing customers, um, throw in a pandemic, throw in geopolitical issues. It's a wild ride, but your job is that's my job is to navigate that and figure it out. And on the other side, there's been so many successes. We grew a lot last year. Um, we opened a store in our airport. That's a really big deal. We continue to do these really amazing collaborations with different large organizations. We've launched our corporate gifting line and our experiential marketing side, like on-site activations, which are doing incredibly well because we can make stuff on site with customers. And it's like that stuff has all kind of come from different pivots, and it's all come from different challenges. When you're up against a wall, it's amazing how creative you can be. So, I think that's what to everyone who's going through it, especially to my entrepreneurs out there, it is true. It's like hard to see in the moment because sometimes the blows can be so devastating, but there's opportunity with every challenge that we face.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can agree with you more when you said that, like what you do. Otherwise, because if you only thinking about the money, which money is a part of it, right? Because we all need it, we all want to be profitable. But if it's only that drives you, that can dim pretty quick. Um, and because this is
If it's the money that drives you, you will not last long.
there, yes, absolutely. Oh, think about how many businesses failed because of that, because money was the driver.
Yes.
Um, So, Amy, because this is moments that define us, and I always like to ask, if you think about your life, and it doesn't have to be just about the Rebel Nell, but about your life up until this point. What are some of the defining moments that led you to be the person you are today?
I mean, there's so many, but some in particular are, not getting the opportunity that I wanted at the Tigers has ended up being one of the greatest things for me because as a result, I did found Rebel Nell, and I think that gave me I never thought I'd be an entrepreneur. That wasn't on my bingo card, but here I am, and I love being an entrepreneur. I love being in the small business life. Moving to Detroit was a huge turning point, and I'm not sure I'd be an entrepreneur in any other city. Detroit provided the environment to be an entrepreneur at the time in which I started the company, and I have a couple other businesses in the city that I'm very proud of. Meeting my husband was a game changer. Finding somebody who supported me and all my crazy ideas to say go for
Yes.
it. That's a big one. I'm grateful to have that support system. And he's also an entrepreneur. So together, we're both Looney Tunes.
Oh, that's amazing. That and then it is so important to have a husband, wife, a partner that supports you, because I don't know, are you a mom?
And I was going to say, next up is being a mom. Like, my son has changed the way I approach life.
How
And
old
it's
is your
made me
son?
work harder. He's 9.
Okay.
But in
Yeah.
many ways, it's like some women, I think, kind of go reverse and want to spend more time with their kids and they work less. And that's totally fine. But for me, my reaction was in many ways to keep pursuing this, to continue to work, to show him that challenges are opportunities, and like to see the struggle is real. I think that's something that I know he gets, and also see how important it is to be kind and respectful and to uplift women is something I really want to instill in him, and I'm
Mm.
proud of that he's seeing that not only at home but also at the work we do at Rebel Nell.
Yeah, that's amazing because I was going to ask, does he, I mean, he's 9, right? So he's already big enough to understand like what mom does and
Yes.
probably sees the impact of what you're doing and what a great work you do.
Yes.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you for giving so many advice, especially to younger generation who I think now we live in this like instant gratification type of thing, like, oh, if this doesn't work, I'll move to the next, I'll move to the next, and kind of not sticking and seeing if it's gonna work, if it's gonna go well or not. And it's okay if it's fail, right? But I don't know, it's
Right.
just um I recently read this book called Anxious Generation about Gen Z. I don't know if you heard of that book. And it's like the author talks how like kids just need that instant dopamine. And it goes, I feel like not just with social media or phones, but with everything, right? Kind of hard for them sometimes to stick and see if it's going to go through. Um, and also where can people find you? Where are you at? Like, I think physical location is only in Detroit, I believe, but correct me if I'm wrong.
We just have physical locations in Detroit. Uh, but yeah, please follow rebelnell.com. Rebelnell.com is our website, but also on social media is Rebel Nell. I'm pretty easy to find, Amy at rebelnell.com. And yeah, thank you for
Yeah.
this.
Rebel Nell has the most wonderful collection. And again, it is not just the jewelry, there is a mission behind that. And Amy and Brenda describes you as a badass woman. So I'm going to second that. So,
She's
loves,
amazing.
yeah, it's so important for everybody. Go and support small businesses, women businesses, because that's how we build community. And that's my mission behind this podcast, to bring people and voices like Amy to help us, because once we in it together we can be amazing. Amy, thank you so much for, I know you're busy woman, but I really appreciate your time coming on to share your wisdom and expertise with the community at Moments That Define Us. But this was such an awesome conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah. Okay, have a good day, Amy.
Bye.
Bye.